Welcome to the LEGO Demo 2 tutorial, which is about audio mixing. And what we see here is the Insta360 Pro camera in the middle of the room, and we can look around and we can play. To get the best out of this tutorial, it's a good idea to wear headphones, because if you're listening on speakers, you won't be able to hear the spatialization of the sound. As for example, we use a wireless mic, because we have a number of wireless mics on different participants in the room. We have audio from the cameras, and we can spatialize that and mix that together to find the best way of hearing certain phenomena. So please wear headphones for this particular demo and for anything involving audio and spatialization. We have a timeline open, and we're currently at the beginning, and we can just play now the general audio from this 360 camera in the room.
Og så når jeg siger go, så starter vi. Er I klar? 3, 2, 1, go!
So he's given, as you can hear, it's in Danish language. He's given a countdown, and she started running, as has the other team here, because these two teams are competing to reconstruct the Lego puzzle. And she's going to now, if I just play a bit more, she goes behind the table here, and we can't quite see what's going on there or hear what if she's talking to herself. We'll hear that a bit later. And the other group are waiting for her to come back. So she's expecting the puzzle, coming back and explaining to them what they need to do. So that's the basics of the first run. She comes back, explains, then she runs again and runs again and runs again until the solution will be achieved. And in this data we have, they're only in the early stage of trying to reconstruct the puzzle. So what we need to do maybe is let's bring up some new data. So I'm just going to import some examples, for example, of the audio runner. So if I now insert this, this is in fact an audio from the wireless mic, and I'm just going to place it here for the moment. This is her wireless mic on the person who just ran P2. So this is P2's wireless mic, and we can listen to that in a moment. In fact, we'll just listen to that on its own. If I just point at it and play, that's the general mic that's on her. It's not in sync because I'm playing it. And that's her running. If I now play generally, now we're hearing it back in sync with the master 360 that we're currently in. So we can play independently the audio of any camera or any microphone, and we can also, if it's synced, and this is a synced audio track, then it will play in sync with every other video. So let's just also open up on table 2, which is behind there, just to see. So I'll open that one. I'll move it round to here, and that is a 360 video on the actual camera. Now if I play, now it's in sync, and if I jump into it, we're now looking at what she's doing on the table. So what I can do, if I go back, if I solo that and then move back again, now we can, and you can see that on the timeline it's soloed, now we can hear from this camera on this table. And he's just here, you can hear him just behind us. Now she is inspecting that, she's not saying anything yet, but we're listening only to that camera. So we've got a possibility here to decide which audio sources we'd like to hear. So currently we're on the Master 360 is currently this camera, and it's soloed. All the others are muted. So this one, if we go back, it's this is soloed, and now this one is the master, it is also muted. So we've got a mix going on where we can decide, I want to hear that audio source and maybe that one, but none of the others. And in this case, we're only listening to one on the table. So I'll unsolo that, and now they're all back available. What we can also do is maybe open up a camera, the GoPro camera that's on the table here, and that's going to be in sync 2D. That's this one. And now I've opened that. I'll just move that one back, and that one we can also play. So you can maybe hear there, we can hear a little bit more. She says something just there. So this is the camera on this table, and we could solo this if we want to play it generally in sync, but we're just playing it on its own. We don't need to solo it because it's only playing. and then she says something there. So let's maybe take a look at a transcript to see maybe something of what they're saying, and then we'll move to another occasion where P2 runs, because she's currently behind here. So let's open that transcript. If I import here, look for our transcript. Here's the transcript, and I've opened it. Now we have a transcript, and you'll see that on your screen. If you're here in the VolCap, then you'll be able to manipulate that, get closer to it if you want. If you're watching this on a video, you'll now see the transcript. So now if I go back to the very beginning and then play, let's just make sure we're soloing on this master 360. So now you can see we're currently at line 10. In English, are you ready? He says, "Are you klar?" And then P2 actually says something there, which we can't quite hear at the moment on this audio room.
3, 2, 1, go.
And there's the countdown, 3, 2, 1, go, and then she runs. And then she arrives at the table, and there she is behind the table. We can jump into that, and there she is arriving and removing the white cloth over the model so she can take a look. Let's come back to the main video here. And now she is, they are waiting here, and we have another angle on that. So now we can see a sort of translation with a transcript. I'm just going to move back to the headset view, and what we can now do is, for example, loop those. So if I go to segment 4, that's where he does the countdown. I'm going to loop that with what's coming up, say from segment 4 to segment 6. Now let's see what happens when we loop.
2, 1, go. Go. Go.
So now you hear there's a looping going on where we get the end of the countdown and then her running. So what I want to do now is, maybe that's the general from this camera, or Insta360. Let's listen to it from the point of view of this camera. So I'm soloing only this camera, and I'm going to play the loop.
3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go.
So that's the perspective of the GoPro camera on the table. If I unsolo that, and then I move to the audio here, and then I solo that one, I can also hear the same loop. And notice it's always spatialized to do with the audio object or video window. It's now coming from my left side. Now that's from the mic that's on her, the wireless mic. If I unsolo that, I could also jump in here. I'll have to go back and solo this one, jump in here, and then if we loop, we hear it far away, and then she comes around the corner and picks it off. Now we're listening to the sound on the table. So I'll just jump back and make sure everything is back to normal. Now we would hear all the sources together, which can be difficult to sync. We can try it now and see if it's in sync. Usually, if it's not in sync, you pause and play. Now we're hearing all the sounds at the same time from all 4 independent sources. That can be hard for a computer to process, because it's having to read 4 different video files or an audio file and then sync those together and play them. So sometimes that can go a little out of sync. So if you pause and play, it might solve that. Okay, now that's the initial stages of what we can do. What we can also think about is how we can maybe jump to the next place where there's some. So I'm going to clear all of these loops, and let's just move forward to about 24, 25, 26, 27. And this is going to be the second time that she runs. And then this time, around segment 28, we're going to hear something she's saying behind the table, which we can only hear because of the wireless mic. So let's just get a balance now, a mix. We're interested in what they're saying at the table. We don't want, we're going to mute this one. We're interested in this GoPro here. So let's keep that at a fairly full volume. We're interested in this one here, but we're not interested at this one at the table yet. So I'll mute that one. So we're interested in the runner, and this one is on because this is muted, this one is muted, and this one is on. And so we're going to play those and see what happens in a loop. Getting the sync right. Probably we might have to go a little bit further back here. Now let's try from slightly earlier. Yes, yeah, slightly maybe out of sync there. What we can do is just mute this one as well and then play. Now we're listening to the table only. And there you hear the faintness of her talking. We have no idea what she's saying here. So what we can do is we can unmute that, and at this point it's probably best to start soloing because we've got too many mutes. So I'm just going to solo. If you mute individuals, everything else plays. If we solo one, only that one will play. Now she's behind the table. We can jump in here. We could also solo this one. And here she is. What we can do is add on the extra piece that we're going to hear what she's going to be saying at the table. Yeah, so I'm going to just go back, and we have this one soloed, not this one. Not this one. Oh, we have this one on, so I don't want that one on the main one. Let's go back to here, and now we have the wireless. Now let's just move the transcript around here, and now we'll hear it again. What we're trying to do is get an idea. That's her running. She comes to look. The fuck? Ah. Okay. Oh, and Paul. So now we have picked up what she's saying here, her self-talk about trying to get a memory for which part is next to what. Something is on top of the orange. So if we now just reset the loops so we don't have no looping, and if we jump back, now let's see what she says as she goes back and how that relates to her self-talk here. So go back to this. What we can do is take a look over here. So I'll just bring the transcript around. And what we're going to do is see now as we play what happens as she returns to the table. Here she runs back. And there we see it. Okay, so the orange should be like this. And she continues after that, then the yellow should be in between. So her self-talk clearly has relevance as she calms back, returns to the table where they're waiting for the next instruction. Then she formulates it as, so the orange should be like this. She can't actually touch the blocks, so she's trying to indicate that with her hand gesture. We can see that there with her hands in a particular formation, which I can do with the controllers here, as she's trying to explain without touching the blocks what is the next stage. So you can see with audio mixing, we get some way to be able to adjust the balance. We can also adjust the volume here as well. So we can, if one particular source is particularly loud, then we can balance that so it's in relation to another source. But we haven't done that for this because they're all fairly well balanced. And we also have the possibility to adjust the master volume. So when we play now, we can turn it right down, everything, or everything right up. And then in terms of balance, if we include this one, you see as I move this one, what we're doing is, as we've also included soloed this one, it's also soloed with her wireless mic, which is now here. Then with these two solos, you can hear as I was bringing this up and down the volume level, we're getting a lot of the noise of what's happening with a group over here. So if I try that again. Yeah, so then you hear this camera here is picking up the sound of everything in the room, whereas her wireless mic is pretty close miking for the group here. What we can also do is animate audio or video sources so they track. So we could have animated this so as she ran, and we can go back to a position where she's just about to run back. If we move her audio level here, we can track it.
Okay,
so that would track with, let's just take that one off and turn that one up again. Then that would track with her automatically with an animated animation such that we could hear the audio exactly where it needs to be as people with wireless mics move around or as cameras move. This camera here is static on the table, but if it was moving, then for example here, as it moved, we could have that camera tracking. And that means we would hear the audio from that camera or that microphone exactly where it appears in relation to the larger 360. If we jump into another 360, that will no longer be true because we're in a different camera position. So it has to be done in relation, the animation in relation to the master 360 for that particular analysis that you've developed. Hopefully that gives you an idea of the power of the audio capabilities of AVA360VR, and you can see they're beginning to get a grip on how to analyze what the runner does and how they try to remember certain patterns to themselves through the way they talk to themselves, and also maybe also as they run they are shouting or commenting on, as they come back or as they leave, about what they're going to be up to in order to save time in relation to what the group work is engaged in. Try it yourself. Try the tutorials for the audio controls, for the master audio volume, for importing audio objects, importing videos, and then for animation as well. You could try in order to animate these sources, and then you could also give a go in trying an analysis on your own project.